Hello and welcome to Paris Games here on France 24, our daily Olympic roundup. Over the next 25 minutes, I'll be bringing you through all the latest from day 4 here in the French capital. Well, let's start with a few of the day's biggest stories. Clarisse Agbégnénou has to settle for bronze in judo. France's Olympic champion in Tokyo was knocked out in the semi-finals. The 31-year-old Frenchwoman, 6 times world champion, left the hall to a standing ovation despite having won 5 times as many fights against her 27-year-old opponent. Agbégnénou wins bronze in the under 63 kilos category. GB's gold medal charge continues after none in the first 2 days. Britain's Nathan Hales clinched the men's trap gold at the Paris Games with a new Olympic record. The Brit hit 48 shots out of 50 in his Olympic debut and fell agonisingly short of his own world record of 49. The 28-year-old missed just 1 shot in each of the 2 stages to put daylight between himself and his closest competitor, Kevy Ying of China, who had to settle for silver. Well, I'm joined on set by Karim Balde, our regular consultant. Karim, thanks for joining us. Let's go back to Clarisse's bronze. It is bronze, another medal for France, but it will be a big disappointment, won't it?
Yeah, clearly, because she was a favorite in her category. We all waited for a long time for Clarisse Agbégnénou because she won the gold medal back in Tokyo, and she was one who can bring that first gold medal for French judo. It is weird because they won so many medals since the beginning of those games, but no gold medals. So we all waited for today. That was supposed to be Clarisse's day, but that was very a heartbreak in the semi-final because, well, she was trapped in like 30 seconds before the end of the fight, and then she couldn't come back. So yeah, we saw her like in tears at the end of her semi-final, and then after the bronze medal, it's something great to be with a bronze medal, but well, I think she expected way more than that.
I think she definitely did, and as you say, we saw her really emotional after the loss in the semi-final and after the win as well. Do you think these athletes have too much pressure on their shoulders, especially at home? It felt like maybe the pressure got to her.
Yeah, obviously they have pressure because the Olympics at home, it's once in a lifetime, once in a career. So they always have pressure once they have to play in front of their home crowds. But for some of the French biggest stars, they're used to that pressure all day long, all year long, and even for competitions at home like World Championships, for example. But to come back on Clarisse Agbégnénou's case, that's not so surprising to see her not winning today. She was a favorite, but since she came back in 2022 from her maternity leave, that wasn't an easy journey. She won the gold medal at the World Championships in 2022, but since then, it wasn't so good in the European Championships and then in the World Championships and even in some Grand Slams. So finally, I think to be in the 3rd place at the end, it's not so bad given those circumstances.
Yeah, disappointment for Clarisse, but maybe when she looks back in the end, she'll be fairly happy with bronze in her home games, of course. Well, one of the big stories of the day is unfortunately around an event that didn't take place just 4 hours before the triathlon was meant to start in the River Seine. Paris organisers and World Triathlon announced in a joint statement that the men's competition would be postponed due to pollution levels. Solange Mougin brings us the details.
Even if the sun is now shining, the previous rains have left their mark. The Seine's bacterial levels are still too high after the downpours of the opening ceremony. Shortly after a meeting at 3:30 in the morning, the news fell. Just a few hours before the scheduled 8 a.m. start. The men's triathlon would have to be pushed by a day. It was a blow for athletes and organisers alike.
We'd had some rather optimistic news, which led us to believe that the competition could be scheduled for 8 a.m. this morning as planned. Naturally, the athletes were a little disappointed and a little angry, but we want to focus the attention on the fact they have to adapt. That's one of the key qualities of top-level sport, to be resilient.
Already, training sessions were cancelled on Sunday and Monday because of unsafe levels of bacteria from overflowing sewage and runoff due to the rains. Now the men's triathlon is scheduled for 10:45 in the morning on Wednesday. This means it'll be held just after the women's meet, which begins at 8. That is if and only if the daily tests show that bacteria has gone down to swimmable levels. And here the high heat in Paris could help, as the sunshine decreases E. coli. But it could also hurt by creating summer storms.
We can't make a call yet. We're in regular contact with the organizers to give them our best predictions about rainfall. If a storm comes through Paris in the evening and it brings heavy rain, that will have an effect on the water quality of the Seine, that's for sure.
For months, organizers have been adamant that the Seine, they say, will be clean enough, thanks to over €1 billion in infrastructure works. If the weather decides differently, though, postponing until Friday remains a possibility, as does scrapping the swim portion entirely and making the triathlon a duathlon with only running and cycling.
Well, Karim, I want to bring you back in on this because it's been such a positive start to the Games in terms of the sport, in terms of the atmosphere. This kind of threatens to come a bit of an embarrassment for Paris, doesn't it?
Yeah, that would be an embarrassment if this triathlon becomes a duathlon. Because last year, Tony Estanguet, he was interviewed on a French radio station. He said, well, if the Seine River is not so good, well, let's do only cycling and then the marathon and then the jogging. So, well, it shouldn't happen that way because they have no plan B. Just for the postcard, they decided to go as much as possible on that only plan A to compete on the Seine River, but that was very risky. And now organizers are just on a finger cross mode. So we'll see in the next day whether we can organize that competition into the Seine River.
We will see, and we've seen everyone asked briefly, Karim, would you swim in the Seine?
For what?
Would you swim in the Seine?
No, not at all. Never, ever. I prefer the sea, to be honest with you.
Okay, well, you have your answer there from Karim Balde. He wouldn't swim in the Seine. But one of the stories of these games so far has been the South Sudanese men's basketball team. Around the world, the country has come to be known for its struggles since it's gained independence in 2011. But on Sunday, the Bright Stars made history as they beat Puerto Rico, a first Olympic win. And our reporter Olivia Bizot explains how basketball is more than just a sport in South Sudan.
These junior NBA League players meet here every week. They're hoping to follow in the footsteps of their national team, who didn't exist a decade ago and who've now become kings of the hoops.
10 years back, the things are impossible because of the war, but right now, gladly our country is in peace and it's very good, so we're playing well. Someone who's playing in the NBA, you get a lot of stuff. They give you good payments. You're able to change your community, your family members, and how they live. That gives us hope. That gives us the drive.
In order to improve their skills, many South Sudanese learn from the best on TV. When the national team plays, people gather at bars like this, which creates a sense of national pride.
Basketball brings everyone together. Like, no one wants war or anything. Everyone's happy together. Like, there's nothing like enemies or what. All people are together as one.
We'll bring people like from different parts of the country and connect them like in one place, and there they'll get to unite.
Because of its power to unite the country, investment in basketball has soared in recent years. The National Basketball Federation regularly organizes these training sessions for young referees.
For it to grow also in other states, not just in Central Equatoria here, but also countrywide, I believe we need to invest both in facilities, in referees, in coaches and all that. So that we can have the chance, as we're going for the Olympics, like right now the country is up there. We're on the map internationally.
Whatever the result at the Paris Games, South Sudan is confident this will be the first stride of many.
I'm delighted to say that we're joined on set now by Lindsay Krasnoff, basketball historian and author of Basketball Empire. Lindsay, thanks so much for joining us. Let's start by talking a little bit about South Sudan. It really is an incredible story, isn't it? And they've been almost funded wholly by former NBA player Luol Deng.
Exactly. And that's not just what makes this such an amazing story. It is that, the the world's youngest country is now one of its premier basketball powers. And in many ways, it's not just South Sudan playing for their country. They're also playing on behalf of the African continent as the only African team in the men's 5x5 tournament. And in so many ways, they're representing, communicating, negotiating to the rest of the world what Africa can do and can offer and contribute, especially on the basketball level.
And they came so close to beating the US before the Olympics started. 1 point in it in the end. Let's talk a bit about the dream team of USA. We've seen this so many times in the Olympics before. An array of stars. You've got LeBron James, you've got Steph Curry, Kevin Durant. I mean, all the best players in the world, really. It really does bring eyes on the Olympics, having superstars like this in the tournament, doesn't it?
For sure. And I think that's in part what makes basketball some of the hottest tickets in town, period. Well, I guess up in town in Lille for the time being before the tournament moves back here to Bercy. But I think it's not just the U.S. Team, which is known in the U.S. media as the Avengers, but it's also the fact that the rest of the world has gotten better over the past 20, 30 years since the original Dream Team. And as a result, there have been MVPs and all-stars in the NBA from other places in Africa, in Europe. Even when you look at who is not playing in the NBA but is playing on the Olympic hard courts in EuroLeague, it's top talent. And so I think that's what makes this year's basketball tournament on the men's and the women's side so special, is that there's a lot of talent all over. It's one of the deepest competitions in terms of a lot of contenders vying for the title and the podiums. And that's what helps to make the draw. It's, everyone's got a little bit of skin in the game.
You say that the gap is becoming narrower between the top teams, between US and the top teams. Of course, we've seen Nikola Jokic, 3 MVP titles. You've got Giannis playing for Greece as well, an array of EuroLeague stars playing for teams like Spain. What about on the women's side? Is there still that massive gap between the US and others, or is that closing as well?
The gap is closing, but I think on the women's side, the U.S. team is still considered by far the gold medal contender, just in terms of that type of talent who they had to choose from. You saw that they have not selected one of the biggest stars in global women's basketball right now, who is in her rookie season in the WNBA, Caitlin Clark, because they just had such a overflow of talent. So while the rest of the world on the women's side has also gotten better, the gap, while it has started to close, I don't think has quite closed as much as it has on the men's side.
Well, I've got to ask you, men's and women's, can anyone beat the USA? As you said, it's so close in the men's side. Do you still see them bringing home golds in both men's and women's?
I think definitely on the women's side, yes. I think the U.S. women still take gold. On the men's side, questionable. We're getting ready to see what Team USA brings to the rematch against South Sudan tomorrow. I think that's going to be a super fascinating and spirited games. But, look, there have been other teams that have beaten the U.S. men's team in Olympic and FIBA World Cup competition. France having, handed the U.S. their first Olympic defeat back at the Tokyo Games. It was their first Olympic defeat since 2004. And of course, France knocked the U.S. out of World Cup competition in 2019. So despite the plethora of talent, they're no longer feared in the way that, or awed, right? In the same way that the Dream Team original version 1992 was, because this time around, so many players have played against the U.S. players, whether currently or past. A lot of their coaching staffs all know each other and know the players. There's this, the South Sudan coach has coached and played with Kevin Durant, for example, in the NBA. So it's this familiarity that helps to also up the competition level, but also takes away that awe factor. And people now believe that they can beat the U.S. It's been done.
Before I let you go, I have to ask you briefly about 3x3 basketball. Watching it almost feels like a completely different sport, doesn't it? Take us through that. What's the difference between 3x3 basketball and traditional 5-a-side basketball?
It's super fun, 3x3, half court, and it's very much played in a festive atmosphere. There's music, the players move to the music as well. You can tell it's a lot more spirited then say 5-a-side. The crowd also helps significantly on the 3x3 side. And it's very much like street ball, right? A pickup game of, two of your closest friends, against those who you
the
find.
ultimate pickup game in the
It
Olympics.
is the ultimate pickup game, and I think that's what makes it super fun and competitive. It's also a way for countries that might not have the same sort of personnel resources or financial resource or kind of depth chart to really be able to compete and to contend. We see that with some of the teams that have qualified in 3x3 that are a far more, I think, diverse representation of global basketball than on the 5x5 sides. One interesting note, however, is that only France and the United States have had all 4 of their teams qualify for the Olympics between the 5-on-5 and the 3-on-3. So I'm really curious to see what happens on the 3x3 side once competition starts to finally get underway, and who's going to be taken by the tempo and the crowd and the thrills.
Lindsay Krasnoff, basketball historian, thanks so much for joining us and giving that brief overview of both the 5 and the 3x3.
Thanks for having me.
Well, he came so close to winning gold in the men's cross-country biking yesterday, but Victor Koretzky had to settle for silver behind GB's Tom Pidcock. Our reporter Clovis Caselli caught up with the silver medalist earlier on today.
And I'm here at Club France with Victor Koretzky, the Frenchman who won silver in mountain bike. First, congratulations, but you nearly won gold. What happened? Last minute, little incident.
I was on the lead, the main part of the race, and then on the final part of the race, Tom Pidcock closed the gap on me, and then it was a big fight between him and me. So, I think we all want the gold, and he tried his chance to defend his title, his Olympic title, and he was also in good shape because he had also a flat tire at the beginning of the race, and I did also a small mistake on the last downhill, and he did it the move again, and then on the last few meters he tried to overtake me on the tricky part, and it was super close for me to crash. But
and are you disappointed by the silver medal, and are you angry at him for what happened? Tom Pidcock from Team GB, of course, who won gold.
No, for sure. I'm happy about the result because I can say I'm vice Olympic champion. And it's just amazing here in France, front of the French crowd. So now I just want to enjoy the things and don't think about the bad things. So.
And what are you going to be doing in the next few days? Are you staying in Paris to watch some events, or are you going back south to the Hérault region where you're from, and probably to celebrate a bit with your friends and family?
Yeah, so the plan is maybe to stay here 2 more days, maybe, just to watch maybe some discipline. And then, I want to celebrate a bit with my family and just rest and just be free on my mind to start again the training for the World Championship in 1 month.
Victor, congratulations for this silver medal.
Thank you.
Came so close yet so far for Koretzky in the end, but he did lose to one of the very best, the defending Olympic champion, and people did expect Pidcock to win that. So a silver medal is a pretty good result in the end, isn't it, for Koretzky?
Yes, that's a great result for Victor Koretzky because we wanted him to be in the top 5, maybe on the podium, but that second place was good. Even if they have some people whistling Tom Pidcock at the end because of that famous overtake, but I think it was fair, and he acknowledged that was a mistake on his side to let Pidcock going on the left. So yes, at the end, it's a very good race for Koretzky. Obviously, we wanted him to get this gold medal because it was so close. He has so much in advance at some point of the race yesterday, but that's it, and that's how it is. And Tom Pidcock is such a great champion, let's be honest, on the road and in mountain bike as well.
And just 2 weeks after Pidcock recovered from COVID as well, makes that achievement even more impressive. Well, the women's team gymnastic final has just finished. and it's the USA who reign champions, winning gold medal there. Selena Sykes was there for us. Selena, if I can just ask you, how did that, I mean, what a performance from Simone Biles. All eyes on her in the end, wasn't it?
What a night, Leo, and what a moment for Simone Biles and the rest of Team USA. A commanding, dazzling performance from the 27-year-old to secure her 5th Olympic gold medal and to continue her title as the most decorated gymnast of all time, now with 38 combined Olympic and World Championship medals. And she didn't just assure it, she absolutely nailed it here this evening. It was a dazzling performance from the American. It almost seemed like fate that she started on the vault, which is the apparatus that she finished her campaign in Tokyo 3 years ago. To get to this far and to participate on that vault in the first one, an extraordinary achievement for her. The twisties that got her left her out of Tokyo 3 years ago as she struggled with the twisties, but she was back with a vengeance here this evening. Herself describing it as a redemption tour for her here in Paris. She then went on to the uneven bars with another commanding performance and with the beam as well. And it also just seemed written in the stars that she finished on the floor exercise, by far her biggest strength. Leo, and absolutely nailed it. She was actually the last gymnast to perform at all here in Bercy. All eyes were with her and she didn't crack under the pressure. It's an exceptional achievement for her and the rest of her teammates, of course, because Team USA had to settle for silver 3 years ago in Tokyo, but they've done it. They've got the gold medal back in the women's final. They were followed by Italy, who got a historic silver in this event, and Brazil in the bronze. As you can see potentially behind me, a lot of happy Americans here. The medal presentation having just come to an end. And this isn't where it ends for Simone Biles, because she's still got 4 events to go. She's qualified for the all-round final and every other apparatus except the uneven bars. So we could potentially see Simone Biles add a few more gold medals to her tally.
Selena Sykes, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much. I've been lucky enough to see Simone Biles add to her legend. Well, yesterday we saw an incredible fencing final at the Grand Palais where Manon Appetit-Brunet claimed gold against her compatriot Sarah Balzer. Here's what she had to say when she talked to our team a little bit earlier on.
It's idyllic to get to the final and get gold for France and 2 medals as well. We could have ended up in 3rd place, and that would have been a lot less fun because one of us wouldn't have gotten a medal, or even for the quarterfinals. So we were lucky to find ourselves together. Afterwards, we both knew we deserved the gold. I got it, but she could have got it too. It's hard for me to believe that I'm an Olympic champion. I'm very proud to be the first Olympic medalist in my sport and the first Olympic champion. I slept with my medal, so I look at it, I savor it, but it's hard to believe that it's mine.
I've got to be honest, Karim, if I won a gold medal, I would also sleep with it for the rest of my life.
Oh, yeah, clearly.
But it really was an amazing atmosphere at Grand Palais yesterday. French woman versus French woman. It was incredible to see, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was incredible because they performed since the beginning of those Olympics in fencing especially. And yesterday's fight between Manon Appetit-Brunet and Sarah Balzer was one of a kind, because even in the stands, like, people didn't know who to cheer for, but there was a sense of gathering. And even at the end, after Manon Appetit-Brunet won that gold medal, they raised each other, and we saw that kind of sympathy between the two girls, and that was very impressive to see this public cheering across throughout the days, and they will be there as well tonight, because there are team events starting, and then for the next and last days of fencing at this beautiful place, which is the Grand Palais.
Yeah, and France will have another chance for fencing gold medal tonight when they take on in the fencing team event. Well, we're nearly out of time, but before we go, I want to show you what is definitely the image of the day, maybe the image of the Games so far. Gabriel Medina, a Brazilian surfer taking part in Tahiti, What an image. Looks like he's having fun, doesn't it, Karim?
Yes, exactly. It seems that he's flying above the sea, and that was beautiful. And the picture just before, when I look at the video, we saw that there was a huge wave. It was just inside that tube, and then he was claiming a 10 with his hands. And then finally, he had a 9.9, I think, at the end. But yeah, this picture, this photography is beautiful because it captures that specific moment after he claimed the 10 with his hands. And well, the photographer, we have to say thank you to him because we didn't talk a lot about surfing, but it's so far away from Paris.
And it's so late.
Yeah,
Middle of the
so
night.
late.
It's hard to watch.
And
yeah.
so far, and even me, since surf is in the Olympic program since the Tokyo Games in 2021, I'm still wondering why it is in game. But that kind of pictures can help surf to get their moment into those games, I think, of 2024.
Well, Karim Balde, that's all we have time for. You'll be back tomorrow. I'll be back tomorrow.
Pleasure.
Thank you for joining us here on France 24. Join us at the same time tomorrow for all the latest Olympic news. Stay tuned for more world news on France 24 in just a few minutes.